All right. Hey, Tali. So this conversation will be a lot about kinship within the TCHRPG community for queer members of that community. First off, I want to start off with our credentials. First off, tell me a bit of
Hmm,
your experience in the TCHRPG community and what you do within it.
goodness. Okay. Well, I have been playing and running tabletops for most of my life, but actually being a part of the community is a pretty recent thing. I only ever really started interacting with it about 5 years ago in college when I was a part of the discussion surrounding the Stabbiness group's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure tabletop, and that really pulled me out of a shitty spot in my life, so I started, thinking, "Huh, this is fun. I kinda wanna do this myself." And 4 years ago, I started Sequence Break with my friends because at the time, we were playing okay, oh gosh, it's a funny story, but, we were playing a tabletop during winter break
Hmm.
of D&D, and my, one of my group mates was like, "Hey, this is really cool. I wish we recorded it." And my method has always been recording an audio track in order to, keep GM notes, and I was like, "Hey, actually, I do have a recording," and then we started posting it on a whim, and we just really liked it, and we kept going, and now we're, one of the most well-known JoJo's Bizarre Adventure tabletop groups on the platform, um, and we have a pretty friendly and nice community, I say, looking at you, uh
I appreciate that. Um,
But yeah, no, my job is basically I make tabletop videos, I edit them, I run a community, I make modules, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I do a lot of shit.
yeah. And for those of you listening, wondering why the fuck I'm here, besides just an interviewer, these chuckle fucks here have actually inspired me to start doing some stuff as well. I'm working on a Pokemon hack of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure system, as well as my own from the ground up contested rolling adventure system. That is
Uh, a
that.
Pokemon system that isn't PTU, God
Yes,
bless.
that is exactly the reason. I've been yeah. And before everyone's getting even more confused, when we say TTRPGs, we say a tabletop role playing game where you're basically creating a character and you're involving yourself in one person's world and acting out kind of what's going on. And it's a
Right.
very incredible thing because you can get either the dumbest shit to ever happen within a table space, or you can get a Shakespearean experience, um, which
A
is
lot
which is kind of the litmus test. Because if you can have both in one, it's incredible, and that's what I think most of Sequence Break is.
a lot of it is based on who you're playing with and really what you want to achieve, and the magic of it, to me at least, is that a tabletop can be pretty much anything. We've had games that are sketch comedy routines, like, we ran a game that was called, the system is oh, fuck, what is the system called? It's Maids, is the whole concept behind it. You're playing as a bunch of maids, and your whole character is completely randomly decided, and you have to just try and appease the master of the mansion, and that's the whole concept. It was a sketch comedy thing we did.
Oh,
Um,
I completely
and
forgot
then we've
about that.
got
That's
more dark and
hilarious.
serious games like The Daily Eclipse is a found footage style horror game that goes on a lot of analog horror roots, and most of the content therein is quite disturbing and dark.
Indeed, and there's a solar mortality, which is both psychological and
Oh
physical
yeah,
horror.
that's me. Hello.
We're just plugging everything. Um,
True, too. Yeah, Learn Mortality is a sci-fi experience that goes into the morality behind, what constitutes his life. It's a
and
really fun series that I run.
yeah, and then you get some RPGs that are insanely goofy and funny, but can also be tell extremely funny stuff. Uh, my group in the lunch table, we played Nyx, which is based off of Kingdom
Hmm.
Hearts, and I shit you not, the Eric Andre show, based on how hilarious it could be. I would say go watch that VOD. It doesn't exist because Twitch is annoying. Um,
Oh, rip.
rip. But that is beyond the discussion. Currently, um, we want to talk about how the queer community has kind of adopted the TTRPG hobby and is kind of now used as a way to establish relationships, form kinships, things of that sort, even with people that aren't in the queer community. Um, and
Hmm.
we can both agree. I, as a recent member of the queer community, and you as a longer member, I believe, it is quite really. It's not a joke on how many queer people are in
Hmm.
the hobby space compared to cis
No,
people.
it's quite a
Like
lot.
it's it's incredible.
If most spaces are maybe 1% to 99, then the tabletop is probably 50-50.
Yeah, which is it's kind of incredible because you see the history of D&D, which oddly enough is very right leaning and very conservative, seeing as how a lot of these we call them grognards will complain and forgive me for my lack of language but bitch and moan about it.
Are we talking about the "How dare you put an elevator in a fantasy setting" type folks?
Those, but also how dare you make orcs not an evil race folk.
Mm.
You know, those
I
real.
gotcha.
Well, I love Lord of the Rings. I love all that stuff, but sometimes certain elements can just be a little fishy, and if you don't need them, you don't need to keep them. And for those of you who think you need to stick to the rules, even when it is quite honestly morally compromising, yeah, there's an issue there. But
The way I would put this is don't be afraid to run what you want to run. If what you're really passionate about is a period accurate, very hard, like almost nonfiction type tabletop, and you have adequately approached your players about this ahead of time, there is nothing wrong with that.
absolutely,
However, ham-fisting in negative elements and forcing your players into uncomfortable situations that they don't want to be a part of without warning them ahead of time is scummy at, like, at least bad and,
yeah,
like, very damaging at worst.
yeah. At best, it is quite literally. At best, it's horrible, and at worst, it is quite literally abusive.
I'm not
But now let's talk about what I what oddly no one thinks about. Um,
mm,
there's before I want to preface this with that I don't think that these experiences are going to be equal in scope because being told to not play a game is nowhere near as important as being denied your identity. But there is oddly a lot of parallels with the queer and tabletop
mhm.
community when it comes to a phenomenon we all know as the satanic panic, which oddly is ex- it's almost prophetic because we saw back in the 80s how people thought playing D&D was kind of a gateway drug to satanic rituals and stuff like that. And then we see how people were judged for being of the queer persuasion with reactions to things like Freddie Mercury and the perception of that one music video where they start cross-dressing. And then we
Mhm.
see how in recent times people are looking at the queer community as once again satanic. Um, there was a recent incident in 2023, or a recent experience talking about how someone had grown up in the satanic panic, and they're seeing the treatment of the queer community, and are almost kind of giving that PTSD experience of like, oh shit, it's happening again. So,
Honestly, the way that I see this is no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, there's always going to be some spin that people put on folks just enjoying their lives and having a good time that is negative.
mhm,
And when someone comes at a clearly harmless activity such as playing a game and calls it satanic, I mean, you just don't take those people seriously. It's not worth your time.
because at that point you are making a game part of a pop
With
culture
those people,
scare.
there's not even anything to argue on really because they're not founded in
Yeah,
anything. They're just making baseless claims, and you're just like, okay, dude.
absolutely. But it is insanely weird because we see other games in the space that aren't taking the fantasy approach. Some of them taking like cosmic horror or detective stuff like what you're doing with Quirk
Mhm.
or things of that regard. And we kind of saw a grouping, a mass grouping, and I think that's a problem with how D&D and Dungeons and Dragons specifically has kind of become the poster boy of the hobby.
Right, right.
They have become Pikachu in this worldwide conglomerate
Well,
that
people
is
know
Pokemon.
D&D now.
Yeah,
That's, like, the real big difference between these 2 spots is a lack of actual experience and context in the world, so, like, yeah, maybe grandma and grandpa might know about that one time that you sat down and you played a funny dice game on their kitchen table, but, like, are they gonna really know what that experience is like? Are they gonna
mhm.
be able to judge it accordingly? It's a lot of, just, like, filling in the gaps for folks that are just, like, very easily frightened, very easily fear-mongered, and they can just run with this idea that, "Oh, these horrible things are happening behind closed doors," but really, they've never been a part of these things to begin with, so they wouldn't know.
It's so weird that it was seen as harmful when in reality the tabletop hobby has been very therapeutic for people. I remember when I got into the hobby when I was in my sophomore year of high school.
Mhm.
I was in a very dark place. I had lost my girlfriend at the time. My friends kind of abandoned me to go off with that clique. It was a big point of I was in a small Catholic high school, and I therefore did not have
Mhm.
many people to go towards. Rumors started spreading. I kind of was alone for a long time. And I found the hobby, and then I found people in around my area that wanted to play, and I started running games. Um, and quite literally, it brought me out of the worst part of my life. And then a few years later, I stumbled upon the Break Time server. Um, after catching the premiere of what I thought was the most hype premiere event of my life. I still love strings to this day. Wesley, you are a brilliant, brilliant man. I started clicking with everyone. Richard started to hire me for commission work. Basically, the pieces fell in line for me to really engross myself in the hobby and find people who I believed were very like-minded. This community has brought me so much good and has helped me with my self-confidence, and I believe the self-confidence of many other people, that I'm so thankful that I got into this hobby. And I'm
Mhm.
not going to speak on your experience, but
I would like to speak about it if you have a moment.
I would absolutely love it if you did.
What you mentioned is, like, a really cool thing I've noticed about it. It's like the community as a whole is like this big ocean of people, and every now and then you kinda prod at the surface and you're like, "Hmm, do I join?" And then a big wave comes up and pulls you down. And suddenly you're in the community and you're like,
that
"Whoa, wait, there's so many people here, what?"
that
'Cause
very much is what it is.
it's kinda what happened to me in a sense of, like, we started our campaigns with no intention of them getting huge. We just kinda wanted to share our experiences and catalog them for our own sake to look back at them. But that came as a huge surprise to us because at the time and there's this joke that goes around the server all the time, I'm sure you've heard it, but I refer to it as the funny summer game. I didn't take JoJo seriously. I honestly don't really even like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the medium. I just thought it would be fun because the people I watched playing the tabletop series Carbon Interface, I had felt at the time, did a better job than the actual showrunner slash mangaka behind the original series.
Mhm,
And I thought, "Oh, wow. Okay, this idea is like a really cool building block to build off of." I love Araki's work. I think it's very creative.
mhm.
I think it suffers from a lot of bad tropes.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing to build off of. And Carbon Interface did that well. And I was like, "Okay, I can do something like that. That would be fun." And I said, "Hey guys, do you want to play in this system? It'll be our first time playing the system. You'll actually notice in Star Road Now Episode 1, no one knows the system. We never played a test run. We were going to, it got canceled. I had all the Star Road Now players lined up to fight Dio Brando in the world to test the system, and it got canceled.
Oh God.
So he never did it. Um, and man, I also want to mention that Starboard Now hilariously suffers from something I'd like to call well, lack of experience on my part because the concept I had behind it was really cool and is actually something I could probably do these days given the amount of time. I was going to have each map have an alternate and allow you to, at any point, put on this thing called Dream Tech, which would essentially send you into a virtual world that was constructed sort of like an open ended augmented reality where anybody can build anything as an overlay on the real world.
Yeah.
So you would put goggles on and you would see this like technicolor thing that kind of goes into the ideas of the JoJo color scheme, which is a thing that the series does where during bizarre or threatening encounters, they flip the color palettes to be like technichrome or just simple color hue shifts. Um,
Mhm.
really striking stuff. And I thought, well, that would be neat if that is something the players could access at any point. Unfortunately, I was incredibly new to map making, incredibly new to JoJo, and I just did not have the technical skill to do it at the point. But it's funny looking back because if I had put that much effort into it, uh, actually, I don't know if people would have liked it as much, hilariously. But also,
No,
I can't imagine where it would be. It's just cool thinking about it.
man.
But yeah, sorry, I digressed a lot. Back on that ocean thing. I digress a lot. I'm like that.
No,
Um,
you're fine. Go for it.
the TTRPG community is incredibly welcoming and incredibly positive towards people. Again, I don't want to assume, but I'm pretty sure, like us, that have a lot of passion towards what we want to make. And it's very hard for us to refuse someone else that's of a similar mindset.
Absolutely.
Um, Obviously, there are the equivalent of TTRPG grifters, we could say, that come in and out. People who just want to get a quick group together and don't really actually care about what they're making. And we see those people and we're just like, okay, hello.
Yeah. Hi.
But it's it's like if you have the passion for it, I I think it's one of the most welcoming communities in the world.
It is quite honestly both the community itself and the subsect that is sequence break. It is quite literally.
Yeah,
I
you could
I, I
literally hop into our server right now and start talking with us.
yeah, at discord.com/slash playtime. No.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Um.
Actually, what is the fucking link? It's like
Yeah. It's
JKLXDW or
yeah,
some shit like that.
it's some moon runes. Um.
Moon runes, yeah.
But we noticed that, or I noticed that there, with this kind of welcoming atmosphere, it is something that the queer community kind of needed a lot. And I can say with certainty that
Mhm.
many of the members of Break Time and the tabletop community at large uh, have are very much comprised of queer people. I know I said this already,
Yeah.
but it's not just because that's just how it was. It's because this
No,
this
it's
is
like
this has brought a sense of belonging and kinship, like I said.
I think, if I may, I
Hmm.
think it's a really nice connection to make that tabletops are the perfect way to try out a different version of you without actually taking any risk.
Absolutely,
If
because
you want to be something different, you can be that in a tabletop.
absolutely, because a lot of this is improv and role play and trying to get to that sense of I'm embodying a character. But then it's also the fact that that character can embody any facet of yourself. I know Kat has said that a lot of characters that they have played have bits of themselves in them.
Mhm.
I know Mallory was a self-proclaimed self-insert. And the OC that you see on my PFP is what was once a self-proclaimed self-insert.
So way back in high school, right? I
Mhm.
used D&D as a way to play a girl character without actually expressing the fact that I wanted to be a girl, right?
Right.
That's like a very classic trans thing to happen.
Mhm.
Um, and I know a lot of friends who have done that as well, who happen to be trans and happen to play tabletop characters of their preferred gender before they actually realized they were trans.
Amy.
It's oh, Amy,
Oh,
love you,
Amy.
Amy.
I love Amy so much.
Yeah, Literally, you can watch that happening on our channel. Anyway,
Uh,
these days, when I make a character, I try to make them as different from me as possible. And that has been my
mm,
experience lately, has been, let's play a facet of humanity I've never touched. I've got a character who is a religious zealot who only cares about herself and really wants to stick it to the gods of the universe and tell them that they've fucked her over. Uh, I've got a character who is basically a debaucher and like a hedge knight that's trying to uphold some honor but actually has none and is only doing it for his kid. Uh, there are characters that have bits and pieces of me, but at the point I like abstracting them so much that I can just set up this roster of different characters in my head. And at this point, especially with learned mortality, I could go into like 3 or 4 characters, set them down in a room right now, and I could have them talk to each other, and I wouldn't know what they were gonna say, but they would talk to each other.
no, I could see in my head um a bunch of your characters who are very different people, having a completely unpredictable thing. But that's kind of funny because you, as you said, there are bits and pieces, but they're
Right.
abstractions. So
It's very
there's
hard to completely not be yourself because you are, at the end of the day, you.
absolutely. But you said something, and I want to cling on to it. You
Mhm,
said how you played female characters before you came out as trans, and again, that's a
mhm.
phenomenon that a lot of people had. I know. I actually know a few people who did it in real life. And they played those characters, and they ended up telling me one day, "Hey, can you just refer to me as this name?" And I was like,
Hmm,
"Dope. I'm happy. I'm happy you're willing to trust me. Let's do it. Let's go on board. We'll keep this between us or whoever you want to tell." And a lot of and this is a thing that I noticed before I became part of the queer community. A lot of DMs have been trusted with this transition and have initiated this transition, oddly enough. Be it a character being of a certain gender that wasn't already there, or of a sexuality, or of
mhm.
what once was a joke that then became, wait a minute, this might just be who I
This might
am.
just be who I am, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, go
To
ahead.
go back on that therapy idea, it is so therapeutic to live out who you are,
Definitely.
just in general, and to maybe add the power fantasy aspect to it, because in D&D you can kill a god,
True. And power
and
fantasies don't have to be about killing, they can just be about being who you are.
mhm,
Tempest had a pretty cool moment recently. It's very neat.
that was an incredible moment. I know.
And actually, Tempest, if I may speak on Amy's behalf for a second, I think
Mhm,
Amy has a really cool story behind this that I think really applies to this.
mhm.
Of when she started playing Tempest, Tempest was this "Oh, money" like type of Mr. Krabs esque character, right?
Understandable.
Um, yeah, and at the time she really enjoyed playing him, but as time went on, she started to have no real enjoyment playing him because it was like this character isn't me at all anymore.
Mhm.
And what happened was instead of just keeping Tempest being one note, she was like, "Oh, let's change Tempest with me. Why not?"
Mhm.
And we got the whole Tempest at like the age of like 40 finally accepting that they're not part of their father's perfect son image anymore, you know? It was cool.
We see a journey, and we see a journey both in the character of Tempest and how the player plays Tempest, and how Amy has changed as a person as a through line on that journey. And that kind of transformation is very common in
If
the
I
community.
may,
Mhm,
from my experience, when I started playing tabletops back in middle school, I grew up in a very uh, small town, isolated community in Wisconsin. So I did not have a very big experience with the sort of open queerness of the world these days, but I didn't even know what trans people were when I was growing up, I'll be honest.
Mhm.
So I had all these feelings when I was playing out D&D characters, and it took me like 8 years to realize what was actually going on was actually just normal and not me being a weirdo. Uh, and without the ability to express that in any way, I don't think I ever would have figured that out.
A lot of this hobby is very much the gateway to this sounds very cheesy, but to becoming your real self.
Yeah, and even if it's and we're talking a lot about trans folk, but I think it goes further than that.
Mhm.
If you are, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are okay, like the most stereotypical, never gonna change your identity. You've known who you are since you were a baby type bullshit, you know? Like, well, there are people like that that just don't change that their whole life, and that's cool. But
Yeah,
let's say you don't have a sense of belonging, or let's say you've never actually been able to go out because you're like not rich enough to go on a super adventure by yourself, but you want to. There are ways to live vicariously through your characters that really not only is it just fun for recreation, but it also can give you a lot of fulfillment.
absolutely.
I have laughed, I have cried, I have screamed in agony as my characters, and it is like I have actually lived as them, and it's fantastic.
And we can see this, both your experience and the experience of Amy and so many other people, of getting in and really creating that connection, because I've never seen such a sound team as Sequence Break. And it's not
I don't.
just queer people. It's we have Rick, we have Mike, we have Wes, all these people who are practically the straight
I don't
white
even know
men
how it
of the
happened.
gang. No,
Oh yeah, no, true.
it's so odd that
It,
this bunch of, I believe you guys were internet friends. This bunch of
so Kat, Amy, and Wesley and I go way back from back when I was a YouTube Let's Player in like 2012. Uh, that was a while ago. But yeah, I did video games when I was still living in my parents' house. I would record them, and I started a Minecraft server, and that's how I met some of my closest friends. And I am now living with one of them. It's crazy. Uh, but like little tiny things like that that can create lifelong friends. And then Richard came in as a friend of Wesley's. Mike came in as a friend of Kat's. I invited Dev in. I think Jared just meshed with the group.
Yeah, yeah. People joke that Jared like weaseled his way into being a crew member.
No, no, dude, he just fit.
No, yeah, no,
He jokes that he weaseled his way in. He's like, "Haha, I'm
every
in."
everyone everyone does it.
We've all got a we've got a dynamic where we support each other and we all have a similar sort of outlook on this of like, for me, right? I Okay, I'm gonna be a little real for a sec, but I hate how the world works. I despise this society that we've got where people are forced into very rigid life patterns, and I don't want any part of it. I'm a creative through and through, and all I want to do every day is make my stuff. I couldn't care less about world politics or money or transportation, any of that stuff for myself, I don't care less about. I just want to be able to do what I do and hopefully not get interrupted. But,
Absolutely.
it's hard,
I
it's really hard, but
It
I
is
think
insane.
everyone in this community is of a similar mindset of like, "Yeah, we should be allowed to create more. Why aren't we allowed to do this more often?"
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it can somehow push for, like, a way that all of us can keep doing this
Hmm.
as safely and as freely as we have been.
That is a perfect world in my opinion. Because I am also of that persuasion, because I think the fights that are going on are idiotic. I think
So much kindergarten sandpit fights, yeah.
I feel like most conflicts that are going on nowadays could be solved by just sitting down and having a
Mhm.
third party there to talk.
Oh, yeah, but they
But
don't want to.
yeah, but no one wants to. And I've seen it kind of be proven with a lot of the stories you guys share out there. For example, the adamancy of the LM crew to talk with every side of the story, the
Mhm.
the almost incessantly annoying enemy to friendship relationship Richard's characters have with
Oh,
literally
I was about to
anybody.
mention, Richard is
Ri-
obnoxious about that.
Richard
I
Richard
cannot
ha-
put an ounce of moral grayness in anyone around that man.
Richard has a tough ninjutsu, and I hate it.
It's frustrating
It
too because like I can't argue. He just finds the thing they care about and he's like, "Yeah, so yeah, I see your wife died. That's really shitty. Mine also did. Hey, buddy, you want to hug it out?" And I'm just like, "God damn it, Richard.
God damn it, you
God
son of a
damn
bitch.
it. He's right."
I'm in.
I cannot tell you how many times I thought I had an irredeemable monster of a villain and Richard walked up and just said, "Nah, that's my little baby boo-boo."
But Richard's whole
God.
MO is oddly enough like how I view the hobby. Because this hobby has a tendency of bringing some of the most ignorant and shameful people that oddly enough have something in them that they want to share but can't, and bring
Mhm.
it out of them. And I think that's part of the reason why D&D has become so popular, because we've seen Stranger Things, and we've seen different spaces where we have people of these persuasions that are treated as equals. I mean, we see Noah Schnapp's character from Stranger Things. We have Taliesin Jaffe on Critical Role, who I don't even know what the hell he is, but I love him. Um, we have
He
we have
sure exists.
I I don't know. We have Ali Beardsley on Dimension 20. We have so many role models now in the community.
This, with the TTRPG community, is what I think of all the time, and I fully stand by this. I love this image because it is like my life's motto. For if this is audio only, it's an image of Sonic that goes around the internet that's just, I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. So I wanted to share a story that when I was 10 years old, little 10-year-old me, little prideful, stupid 10-year-old me said, "I'm going to be the world's greatest video game designer." End of line. That was my goal. I wanted to be better than the triple A's. I wanted to be better than everyone. I wanted to be world renowned and make the best games in the world. And I set that as my goal, and I followed it up until college when I was taking literal game design courses with some of the coolest game designers I've ever talked to, and I realized I would much rather be in my room drawing my shitty little dragon for my D&D campaign than actually being here learning. And I was like, "Wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? Oh, I see. I'm not having fun anymore."
you,
So
you
I quit that whole thing and I said, "Screw it. I'm just going to make whatever my heart desires, and if that happens to be video games, so be it." And here I am, still technically making games, just not in the way I thought I would be.
you would rather be Toby Fox than Nintendo.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't think you understand how impactful a story like that can be, because so many people put themselves on like a position with expectations and then realize, huh, maybe this just isn't my vibe, but they're stuck in that now.
I thought it was for the longest time, and I had made quite a few cool game projects, and I still think they're quite good, but it's not. I am a social person through and through, and I learned this about myself, and it was weird because I always thought I was an introvert. It's not true actually in the slightest. I just have a lot of social anxiety. Um, what I needed was a game that I could make that doesn't lock me in my room 24 hours a day working on code and sprite work and music. I needed a game where I can go, "Hey, Wesley, what's up?" And then Wesley could go, "Draw me 74 pixel arts." And I could go, "Haha, what?"
Oh,
And but jokes aside, having the constant flow and feedback of a bunch of creative people sharing their stuff all the time, that's the like validation that I needed to keep working and having fun with it.
absolutely. That's why I think break time now needs to be a thing in that presentation. the
Uh,
idea I mentioned, because that is
I would
that
love that.
yeah, that is
Would be
quite
so cool.
honestly what I believe to be the quintessential, like, I don't want to say like defining or definition of sequence break, but I
The
think,
server,
or the
definitely.
server, definitely the server, because
I don't think the channel, but the server? Yeah, definitely.
yeah, because for the server, it has become such a combination of like-minded people that sharing it, or not sharing it rather, would be a crime. But
And you guys make so much cool shit that I think honestly needs to be seen.
mhm. But this is, as much as this could be seen as digressing, this is what we mean, because we haven't mentioned anything about anyone's gender or sexuality, but we have mentioned how all of us, a recently queer person and a, I'm gonna say queer veteran because I don't know how else to say it.
Queer veteran.
Queer
Oh
veteran.
yeah, I've been bruised in the queer wars of 1983.
Reminds me of when I fought in the Cold War.
I saw the gender party that burned down the rainforests, and I was there for it. God.
but but no, um, but none of us I've talked about that. None of us have. I don't think I've heard anyone mention anything like this until I brought the topic up to you. At least in the
I
server.
think that's a good thing because, at least in my opinion, gender shouldn't matter.
Absolutely. None of it matters in the grand scheme of humanity or
At least in your day to
existence,
day.
or yeah, or your day to day. The people who make it matter and who make it a struggle, that's the real problem. And the hobby in large has somehow created a space for the queer community to claim and to no longer make it a problem. And I think that's fucking beautiful.
So, ironically, from my perspective, and I know this is different from a lot of others, but I know that like queer people are very much looked down
Mhm.
upon, and it's like a nice space where you're not looked down upon. From my thing, to me at the very least, is how mental disorders are seen positively in our community.
Yeah.
Um, when I was growing up, autism was a bad word and something used to put people down. And nowadays, most of my friends have autism and are open about it. And we
Mhm.
share our experiences through our like excitement about the stuff that we can share with each other that's like cool to us,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think that that's like, I don't know. I would jokingly call. Well, I think there was someone. I think it was Curly. It was like, ah, yeah, sequence break, the autism magnet. But like every other person who comes in is just like, oh yeah, me too.
Oh yeah, you do that too.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you want to make tabletops? Have you been like hyper focusing on it since you were two? Yeah, me too. Oh, I've got this space game. Look at this giant map I made.
Yeah. Yo, you like Ben
That's
10?
like,
I've been making a Ben 10 system for like 5 years.
yeah,
Yo,
right.
you do it!
And everyone
Holy
jumping out of the woodworks like, oh my god, Ben 10. I used to love that.
shit!
Wesley
Yeah.
going on rants for like hours on end about Ben 10. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. He'd love Smokey, because Smokey's doing a Ben 10 system. Like,
Yeah,
actually. Again, we need to make this presentation. But
I
but
am more than welcoming someone else to do it. I don't think I'm the right person to do it because I don't have much time, but like,
no, no,
I'll
absolutely,
support it. That's for sure.
because me and Kat and Vic were like, we're planning it out. I'll tell you after the recording's done. But
Yeah, like please do and involve me if you want to. I would love to know what's going on with it.
absolutely. But but I think the general idea in what I came out here to say, and what I believe you can agree with me on, uh, is that this community in this hobby has created a welcome space for everybody, not
Yeah.
just queer people, but those with again, you said autism. For those of us
The
who have
big thing
experience.
I just the big thing I wanted to make clear is I see a lot of people talk about how openly these spaces are for queer people, and I want to make 100% sure that it's not just queer people. If you're not queer, that's okay. And there are some people that will look down upon you for that, but those aren't the people we like, nor the people we support.
Yeah, and they aren't the people we focus on in this
Yeah,
hobby. In fact, those are the people we also look down upon.
quite a lot. If it's more so not who you are, it's what you do. And if you happen to make your whole persona being uh straight white men bad, yeah, sorry. Nah.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
yeah, I'm looking at you, Dungeons and Discourse.
There was a there was this very angry Twitter conversation earlier that I actually commented on that I thought was like, "What are you guys on about?" It was about fantasy wheelchairs, and, like, I don't think I've ever seen people miss the point so incredibly awfully,
Oh my god.
because there was this person just being like, "If you don't accept these into your games, you're an awful person and should be excommunicated," basically that logic,
Hmm.
and I was just over here like, it's okay to want logical consistency in your tabletop. It's not always about inclusivity.
Yeah, but it's a good and bad thing because you get the forgive me for this because oddly because me and Rich joke about this sometimes. You get people that are welcoming and are selective, but are extremely welcoming and are willing to hear people out, and then you get the people who come in with blue hair and pronouns going like, "You need to listen to my thing, and if you don't, you're a communist."
They also come in and the worst part about those people is they pretend to be opening, and they get so upset when you even suggest the fact that they're the closed-minded bigots.
The focus of this talk has gone in many directions, but I think it all falls in the same principle. No matter who you are, the hobby has become something that anyone can come into, and
Mhm.
for the queer people, especially, in this focus, but anybody, um, we have seen such a beautiful sense of, I don't want to say belonging, but kinship, understanding, care, and gentleness with everybody. That
Yeah.
I think that this hobby, if you want to get into it, and if you're not sure about yourself, get into it. Find someone. I don't care if you have to go. I don't care if you have to go on Reddit and find a group. I don't care if you want to go into the break time Discord and be one of those people that want to find a group or just find like-minded people to talk to. Do it.
Yeah.
If you have something in yourself that you don't fully understand, reach out. Find something. Find some way to do it. Because trust me, you will not, and I mean you will not regret it. And I want to close off this topic by first off just saying, Tally, where can we find all of your stuff?
Oh, yeah, of course. So you can find me on youtube.com/sequencebreak. I also stream Mondays and Wednesdays, usually, on twitch.tv/onestupidrat with my brother Duncan. We go into details on video game design, weird indie titles that we want to share. Sometimes we just play multiplayer games with our friends and talk tabletop shop. Um, if you want to get involved in the community, I recommend checking out the Break Time Discord. You can find it literally any video of ours. Go to the bottom description. There will be a link to our Discord, or you can just go to the channel page and click on it. It is free entry. You can come in no matter who you are, start talking with us instantly. Uh, there's no judgment.
Absolutely. And if you want to find me and my stuff, you can come find me on the break time server. I'm always down to talk and do stuff like that. But also, I'm recently opened up volunteer work for the Pokemon pen and paper system because I'm just a little guy, and little guys on their birthdays can't do so much. Um, but for real, this has been a lovely conversation, and I thank you so much, Tally, for joining me.
Yeah, it's been nice talking. May I offer one last thing
Go
that
right
I
ahead.
wanted to say? I just wanted to offer this to the little Timmies out there that might be like me. Um, if you hear this talk of community and talking to people you don't know and you go, "Oh gosh, that's terrifying." Um, Another way to get into this community and how I got into it is unabashedly making your own thing and just posting it and someone will see eventually.
Someone will definitely see, yeah.
If
Someone
it's
will
if
see.
it's something that clearly has passion behind it, someone will like it.
Absolutely. We got the creator of Nyx watching our stream,
Yeah,
on Launch
I saw
Table.
that.
That was awesome. So
They
someone will
seem like
see
a
it,
cool dude.
and the times where someone very influential will see it, you will see a floodgate of people who are willing to support you like never seen before. Whether it's quick, whether it's slow, it'll happen. So
How I
don't
got
be
into
afraid to put yourself
the
out there.
YouTube scene is very much to that.
Hmm.
Um, Way back when YouTube had an inbox system, I messaged my favorite Let's Player at the time, a man named Nintendo Capri Sun, and asked him, "Hey, how do you do all of this?" And then he sent me a follow-up and he helped me get started. And the best thing to know about that experience, at least for me, is that creatives aren't some unknowable force. They're just people. And if they see passion, a lot of times they're going to be like, oh, that's cool.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to be closing this recording off.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course.